So today's topic will be a bit different, and it is: are you ready for a Pokemon crash if a crash does happen? So before you call this FUD, creating fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market so that prices can come lower, this is just really a what-if scenario. And if the event does happen, that you are prepared as a collector or an investor for that particular event. So just bear with me. I think there might be some information that is useful for you during the video or towards the end. But to start off, just want a quick disclaimer: none of this is financial advice or any type of advice. Use this at your own risk. So before we start calling crash, and people use crash all the time, markets crashing, whatnot, we have to understand that everyone has their own definition of crash. And I think there's you could probably call it four main definitions. There's probably plenty others, but I would say this is probably the four main ones that people tend to use, which is: first one, prices drop significantly from all-time high. And that has happened. You know, prices shoot up pre-release to a very high number, and now it corrects a lot, sometimes more than 50%. I mean, look at what's that? Prismatic Evolutions SPC, I think it was over 500 at one stage. Now it's what, $180. So that's corrected. That's dropped more than 50%. So people could have called that a crash. You know, that's their definition. Another one is perhaps prices dropping back to MSRP. Okay, that's probably likely. I mean, you would be potentially lying to yourself if you think this market is just going to keep on going up without any returns. I know the market is different from a couple of years ago. There are tons more people investing, in inverted commas, into Pokemon, mostly for the gains. So if, say, example, a group of investors leave the market, and other old investors decide to leave the market, prices could likely drop back to MSRP. We could start to see sets releasing at MSRP prices again, not like Prismatic Evolutions Distant Rivals, where you have products which are double the price, double the MSRP in market price upon release. So going back to MSRP, I don't think that's out of the question. It's possible. And then prices dropping back to below MSRP. So it could also happen. Below MSRP was actually a norm in the past until recently, where MSRP is considered a good deal. So prices could drop below MSRP, and if people want to see that as a crash, that's also fine. That's their definition. And the fourth one is prices drop to zero. Okay. Now this is extremely unlikely unless Pokemon does something really wrong, and then everyone, or majority, 90% or whatnot, just exits the market. Then all your products are like worthless, which is extremely unlikely. So these are probably definitions, and when people sometimes call crash, they're probably referring to the first one, where prices just drop significantly from all-time high, i.e. most people entered at the high point, the local high, and then it drops 20, 30 to 50%. And they're like, oh, this Pokemon crash, it's the end. I think the other three are unlikely, and especially the fourth one is probably near impossible, but I'm not going to rule that one out. And these two are also potentially going to happen. They're not extremely small. I think that there might be a period where there will be a quiet period where there's just not many demand for products, and we will start to see new sets. Could happen in Mega Evolutions, where sets just start off at MSRP for products, which could also be positive for collectors, people who genuinely just want to collect Pokemon cards and not looking for gains, which is probably a rare case these days. But anyways, these are the definitions. When I'm referring to a crash, it's probably gonna be referring to these two definitions. Okay, so he has 5 main ways to survive, whatever you want to call it, or to deal with it. And you could probably even apply it now. So it doesn't even have to be a crash. It's just good practice to have. So first one, do not be overweight in Pokemon. It sounds easy, but it sounds easy, and it's straightforward. There's nothing really, I would say, confusing about all these 5 points. Starting with a very simple one. And it depends on your own circumstances. One extreme, you could be entirely dependent on Pokemon for your life, for your income. Maybe you're 100% or 99% weighted in Pokemon, and if Pokemon drops a lot, it could impact your life. So a question to ask yourself is, if Pokemon products were to go to 0 today, will this impact your life? And if the answer is a strong yes, then you are likely to be overweight in Pokemon at the moment. And really, you just gotta start thinking about maybe shifting your investment, if you want to call it, or funds in Pokemon to other asset classes. Diversify a bit. Okay, what do I say? ETFs, other TCGs. Maybe you want to go into other TCGs, but that's probably the same asset class. You could keep some in savings account cash, earn 7% per annum just in cash. You could enter some bonds, maybe some shares or ETFs, etc. Just diversify a bit, so that in the event that Pokemon does drop a lot and it's impacting your life currently, and if it will impact your life currently, you're somewhat protected. In my situation, I'm not overweight in Pokemon. Even if Pokemon were to go to 0 today, life goes on, not really impacted. So yeah, take it as you will. That's the first point, simple and easy. Second point, have an emergency fund. Okay, just have a fund aside that's easily accessible, and only earmarked for emergencies. Emergencies referring to unexpected events. Could be a medical emergency, could be car repayment costs, etc., etc. So emergency. Okay, and what I mean by that is also, so what's the rule of thumb for that size of that emergency fund? I think a good starting point would be 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses. If you want to go beyond that, you can go 12 months of monthly expenses and more. That's if you want. That's just building a safety net so that if any event happens, you're covered. Your living circumstances will not be impacted. You can pay rent, you can put food on the table. And this is also a good practice, even if your daily life, if you're not dealing in Pokemon. Say you lose your job, this emergency fund would be very useful until you find your next job. So definitely consider this, and you don't just park it in your check account where it's earning like 0 point something interest rate. Park it in a high yield savings account, so that it's earning at least 7 to 8% per annum, and that whenever some unexpected events happened, you're covered, and that allows you to be more comfortable. Okay. Third one, set a budget and stick to it. Sounds very easy. First one is probably the easiest, but sticking to it is really the difficult part. Okay, so let me give you some quick points. Again, depending on your own circumstances, you can decide on how you want to draw up your budget. One way, you could be looking at your monthly income and then look at what your expenses are, and then determine what your disposable income. Then from that disposable income, determine a percentage that you want to allocate to Pokemon. Say for example, your monthly income is 10,000 South African rands, and your disposable income is 4,000. Maybe you will say, okay, I'll only allocate 1,000 rands per month to Pokemon. Okay, and there we go. Just spend 1,000 max per month on Pokemon. Once you reach it, don't buy anything else. Requires a lot of discipline. Gotta stick to it. and that's the difficult part. But if you can manage that, then you're good on this point, and it will help a lot. Okay, otherwise you could also have set up a savings account where you assign monthly amounts to it, and you use it for Pokemon purchases. Okay, so same principle as before. Say you want to allocate 1000 rands per month, and in a particular month you only spent, say, 500, then you build up that fund, so maybe next month, looking at the fund, you might have a bit more to spend. So it's all about discipline, and you have to stick to it, otherwise it's just pointless and useless, because everyone can draw a budget, but not everyone can stick to it. Okay, number fourth, do not take out debt to invest in Pokemon products. Don't see it as pure investment. End of the day, it is shiny cardboard, and probably considered alternative asset class. So do not take out debt. Don't take out personal loans, temporary loans, or use your credit card without paying it off, just so you can invest in Pokemon and make a quick return. Then everything's gonna be okay. So don't bring debt into this if you can, because the problem is, if things don't go according to plan, then you're sitting with these debts at extremely high interest rates. Sometimes, be above 10%, might even be above 20%. So you gotta be really careful. The exception is if you are responsible with the credit card and you're responsible with your spending and you stick to a budget, then you could use your credit card to pay for your purchases, because you can get rewards points through eBucks, Discovery, etc., other banks. But you have to remember to pay it off every month so that you don't incur interest cost. Okay, so if you are really responsible and disciplined, credit card is an option, but other debts, not worth it. Don't take out debt. Okay, you may see a really tempting deal for you to make a quick buck, but you never know, so don't take out debt. Okay, and last one, research, and do not rely on a single source of information. So in the end, as an investor collector, you really have to form your own opinion. Don't just listen to one. Okay, not listen, this is probably read. Don't listen to a YouTube short or a podcast or a X post or a Reddit post and then decide to go all in with your funds. Do your own research and form your own opinion and views before you want to treat this as an investment product. And also try to focus on a single type of product. What I mean by that is, when you want to enter Pokemon, there's sealed products, there's single cards, there's also graded cards, etc. Try to pick a single type, so say sealed products, and then just work with that. Because if you're going to do many things at once, you'll probably fail on all the things. But there are a few people, who could really be successful with all three. But you need to know what you're doing. Okay. Oh, this is number 5. Why did I have 4? And yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are the 5 points that I want to mention. So if a crash or a correction, whatever you want to call it, or a slowdown in the market were to happen, you are protected and you have a buffer in place. You could probably live through the period without the Pokemon market impacting your life. And I still think long term, Pokemon is going to do well if you have the correct sealed products. I'm particularly interested in sealed products, and I probably only focus on 2 main things right now. That's Elite Trainer boxes and booster boxes. Other types, I'm trying to reduce my allocations to it, and I think long term Elite Trainer boxes, booster boxes will not do badly. Long term they would do well. Okay, catch you next one.